Very excited to be jumping into this conversation and to talk a little bit about FetLife.
Yay.
Yeah. So, Tanjil, you are perhaps the only person that I know who's patient enough to like actually navigate social media and admin all of these groups, and you do all of this like moderating and great work for the atheist community. I have to ask, like, how did you jump on the social media train? Like, were you a Zynga person, or did you get into the MySpace phase, or it's something after that? Like, what's your story here?
Oh God, I'm just old. I'm
I'm
just old
sitting
and
here talking about Zynga and
miss.
MySpace, so don't think you have a monopoly on these
Yes,
ideas.
I had a MySpace. Yeah. I've just been around a really long time. And FetLife, well, that's the only place to go, isn't it? So I just ended up there, as you do, as you do.
Sure. Well, how does FetLife, I guess, historically and currently fit into your social media pantheon?
Well, I'm not active right now, but I have been for many, many years.
Mhm.
And FetLife is a wonderful invention. It's like a worldwide, I would describe it as like a trade show. You go there as a centralized organization to try and find your people in your area, in the types of interests that you have and the groups that you're after. People make a lot of mistakes when they go there. They think that they can jump online on FetLife and find people there. That's not really how it works. So, should I jump into how it does work, or?
Yeah, well, I
Would you?
let's do that. I mean, go ahead and if you would give us kind of the basic primer, because I know that there's a non-zero percentage of the audience that's listening to this that's never even heard of FetLife, and plenty of people that are maybe pretending that they've never heard of FetLife.
Right,
But how would
Christy?
you describe
Christy?
how would you describe maybe the basics of the website for the uninitiated?
All right. So, FetLife is, in fact, a worldwide meeting place for people who are into BDSM or fetish, um, who want to connect. And because it's worldwide, you have a fairly good chance of meeting people in your area. And I would say most people who are into BDSM or fetish would know of FetLife and would go there as an initial meeting spot. So when you go there, you register yourself a profile, much like Facebook or any other place. But then it's a little bit more difficult. So if you're just feeling a bit frisky on a Saturday night, you're not going to jump on there and find people. That's not how it works. You need to jump on there, do your profile, and then you need to actually search for groups to join. Normally, you would do that by searching your local area, especially if you want to meet people in your local area. If you just want to do online things, it's a little bit different. But if you want to actually meet people, you look for your online things, especially munches. Munches are meetup lunches where you actually get to meet people who are in your community. They usually hold these meetings once a month, and you actually get to meet, sit down, and have lunch with people who are participating in these groups. That is the absolute best way to break into your little community. And you'll find that most people don't actually interact much on FetLife itself as a chat site or anything like that. They tend to break away into chat groups like WhatsApp and Kick chat groups. And until you're in one of those, you're really not going to find a lot of action. I might also add that as a newbie, when you first get onto FetLife, that's probably where you're most likely to encounter predators, especially women. Now, when I talk about predation, I really need to make it clear that although BDSM does have its share of predators, so does the pub on a Saturday night.
Sure.
You're not going to get any greater number of predators in FetLife than you would in any other realm of life. There are creepers everywhere you go, and I honestly don't think there's any greater proportion in the BDSM realm. In fact, I think the BDSM realm is somewhat safer in many, many aspects.
I think that that's why things like FetLife exist, is to form community and circle the wagons a little bit as a way of keeping predators out. And I know that this can be a little bit of a no true Scotsman fallacy, but I
Yeah.
would even go so far as to say that there aren't predators in the kink community, or that there aren't predators in kink, because that's not kink. And I worry about how, when we're having these conversations about BDSM culture and some of these things, that there's always this need to kind of like mark that disclaimer. But in my mind, at least conceptually, I almost think of it more as like the sharks swimming around the school rather than being part of it. Is that a fair framework at all?
Absolutely fair. That's exactly my experience. People will search for newbies on the FetLife profiles and they'll immediately message them. So all I can say is do not respond. Find your groups, join your groups, wait till you've met people either online or through the munches. Get into kick chat groups, wait till you've actually met people who are in the communities who are active players, and they will surround you and keep you safe. I actually had what I called a douche list, and we had all the profiles of the normal creepers, and any newbies that joined our groups, we would give them those lists so that they could steer clear. We were really, really good at keeping out the creepers. And so it can be a little bit hard to break into the groups because they really want to know that you're a good person with good intentions. So don't go in full bore. Be prepared to sit back and spend some time gaining trust and just listening and watching and learning as much as you possibly can. On FetLife, you can actually search a group for newbies who will discuss etiquette and what you can do as a newbie to break in. So there's lots of really good reading and information on there, but the best thing of course is to go to a munch, meet people and just ask. And you'll find that most people in the BDSM communities are actually beautiful, loving, kind, caring people who want to help you, who want to help you break in if you're a nice person.
Hmm.
If you're a cocksure, overconfident, smartass 18-year-old who wants to call yourself a master, forget it. You'll get the cold shoulder really quickly. But if you just humbly say, "This is what I really want to break into. I need help," you'll find that they can't do enough for you.
So it's
Yeah, and
such
if I
a
could
s-
just
yeah, please, Nate, go ahead.
real quick here, like these munches. Speaking of going in guns blazing, like nobody there is in character, nobody there is in
Yeah.
costume, and that was one
Yes.
thing that that a lot of people can worry about. I know when they're starting to get into these, it's like, well, what if I see somebody I know? And it's like
Hmm.
they're not gonna know that you're at a munch. They're just gonna see you out with a bunch of people.
Sure.
So it's not like that. There's really nothing to fear as far as that goes. I just wanted to throw
Yeah.
that in. Sorry, Christy. Return to your regular scheduled interview.
No, no, no. I mean, that's an important aspect of the kink community. But when we're talking about FetLife itself, it's a confusing website, because I mean the way you describe it, Tanjil, it's almost like it's more like giving out your card so that people can have like just the barest minimum about you, to then
Yeah.
maybe get invited to like a separate community. I mean, how
Correct.
am I
It's more like a
conceptualizing it well?
gateway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more like a gateway, or as I said, a trade show. You're really going to
Mm,
FetLife to find the places that you need to be. FetLife isn't the place to be, but it's the central point, like a directory. So it's just not a matter. Like I said, if you're horny one night and you just want to jump on and meet someone, it's just not going to happen that way. Well, if
sure.
it does, it would be a disaster in my personal opinion. If it's not, that would be pure fluke. It takes quite a while to break into your group. I would normally recommend that you search groups by your area, especially if you want to actually play and become part of a playing community. Um, and also any BDSM clubs in your area, because clubs will advertise discounts for nights and events and things like that. So you really want to be on their group list. And yeah, and then just get to know people in that community. You will find that there will be chat groups that are separate. And that's where the action happens. If you can find a lovely little group, a chat group, you'll find once they've met you, or you've been chatting with them for a long time, they'll start inviting you to private parties and things like that if you're the type of person that they want. So I used to run about around 10 kick chat groups with 50 people apiece. And we had some wonderful players with all my groups were with different interests, and we would hold parties. And all those people were known and trusted. They were known to uh, only uh, play safely with protection. I knew that they were reliable. I knew that they wouldn't hurt anyone. I knew that they would obey safe words. We just knew that they were trustworthy people. And in fact, people would often contact me and just say, look, I need an extra 5 people for a play night. Can you recommend, and I would send people to other parties.
Hmm.
So it's wonderful once you're in a good little group. But
It's
getting
such
into them isn't that easy.
yeah, well, it's such a strange website in that way, because
It
usually when we're
is.
talking to people about staying safe online, it's like,
Mm.
oh, well, if somebody asks you to follow them to like a third location, like to jump onto a follow-up link, usually that's a bad idea. But you're saying that here, that's kind of what you're there for, is to almost use this as like a directory or a phone book, to maybe get invited to that next step.
Absolutely. And it's not that you're going to follow them, you need to do the pursuing. So if it was
Sure.
me, what I would do is find out who holds the munches in my area, who hosts them. Then I would private message them, say, I'm new to this site. I'm in your area. I see that you host munches. Could you recommend the appropriate groups for me, and or any chat groups that you could recommend? The people who hold these munches will normally know exactly where you should be. So by being proactive, you'll be able to find the right spot to be.
Hmm. Well, what can you tell us about the features of FetLife.com itself? I mean, there are groups, there are individual pages, there's messaging back and forth. It
Yeah.
frankly all looks like it hasn't been updated since the MySpace era. But is there any value to those aspects of the website, or how do you
Um,
navigate those?
Well, look, there's lots of little features and things. I mean, obviously, you can search different things. There's lots of stories and reading. You could be a free member there and have lots and lots of free fun if you're not particularly wanting to meet up with people. There's also what we call the Fet celebrity. So if you post something that gets lots of likes, you have a featured video. I've been a Fet celebrity for my needle play and had my video up there for months on end. Um, yeah, it's a good perp site. So if you just want to browse and have fun, there's tons of content, tons and tons and tons. So it does have a lot of good features for a free site. It really does.
Yeah, I do think there's at least some value in sort of browsing different kinks and fetishes out in the wild.
Absolutely.
You know, as opposed to
Absolutely.
going to a like Pornhub or some other tube site and seeing like
Yeah.
the professionally produced like pornography version of a particular kink, seeing
Yeah.
how people actually utilize these in sort of an amateur way, I think can have a lot of value.
It really does. It really does, especially when you see people doing things like shibari, basic shibari and things like that. And they don't just post porn. People will do instructional videos. I mean, most of it's just basic porn, but there are
Very
other things to be
amateur porn.
found. Yeah, there are, because I mean a lot of exhibitionists are obviously on there,
Sure.
and that's all wonderful too. But there are some
Yeah, amateur porn's not a
semi-professionals.
criticism. It's just a
No,
descriptor.
it's not. That's
The
not.
best porn is
um,
amateur porn. Let's come
yeah,
on.
but there's a lot of different themes and items of interest, and just to there's even things like testing your BDSM bents. So you can do a little bit of a questionnaire and figure out who and what you are, where your interests lie. Um, yeah, it can be little fun browsing for the afternoon. But as I said, a lot of people will jump on and think they can just meet someone on FetLife. That's highly irregular. That just won't happen. It's somewhere that you utilize to get where you need to be, and it does take some time to break into the community.
Sure. Well, I want to give Nate a chance to jump on the phones. But before he does, you mentioned sort of this sometimes risk of predators. And I guess I'm curious about what the dangers are, what the downsides of having a nudity allowed Facebook can actually look like.
Sorry, who have you directed that at, me or Nate?
Yeah, no, Tanjil, I just wanted
Yep.
to hear what some of
Okay.
the risks are from some of these asshole folks that might use this website as a opportunity to meet people who are a little bit less prepared or unsuspecting.
Well, the worst I've heard of is not as bad as you'd think. The worst I've heard of is men posing as women to meet up with men who have robbed them. That was pretty awful.
Sure.
But the most common is that men pose as women and just do a lot of online role play and waste men's time.
Mm.
That's about the worst of it.
Fix and
So
flakes.
yeah, that's the most common issue. So when I actually went back on FET last time, it was actually to teach people how to ID, like how to navigate FetLife, how to do a good profile, how to navigate other people's profiles, how to vet people, how to vet a good dom, and how to ID somebody. So people are actually prepared to ID, like if they try to get you out to a chat from FetLife, not from another chat group,
Mhm.
um, they'll come prepared with a picture of somebody else with a sign with their name. So you've got to find little inventive ways of IDing someone. And one of those is to say, message me when you've got 5 minutes free, you're not at work, and you can ID yourself. And that way they can't say, oh, I can't do it right now, I'm at work, or, and then try and
Sure.
figure out a way to. And then get them to take a photo of themselves doing something that they are not likely to have stored in their phones, like touch your nose with your little finger and take a snap of that. Anything but just hold a sign up with my name, because they can easily Photoshop things like that. So
Sure.
get them to do really weird things, twirl your hair and hold it above your head, or just something really obscure, and ID them. And if they refuse to do it, that's it. Block, delete. No excuses ever. But look, like I said, even that robbery, that was the only one I had heard of in 10 years. That was in Australia. I can't speak to America or any other country that people might be in where these things have happened. But that's the only one I've heard of in 10 years. And no one got hurt. It was just hand over your wallet, okay, and it was done. Um, but yeah, it's mostly people wasting other people's time by pretending to be somebody they're not.
And to be fair, people farming for the spank bank is not it is not exclusive to the BDSM community. People do that
Of
just in
course.
general.
Of
But
course, they do it everywhere. Yeah.